want to thank everybody who's tuning in and welcome you to the very first Godcast of the CineGods. I am happy to welcome Tim Cogshell, colleague in CineGods and co-host of the DigiGods podcast at digigods.com. Also a colleague with KPCC FM Film Week in Los Angeles, and a longtime friend of our site, our podcast, Sherman Augustus, who is currently shooting the fourth season of Stranger Things, better known to a lot of you for his role as Nathaniel Moon on Into the Badlands. And we have a great topic today. We wanted to have a conversation to start off the new Godcast series, one that the three of us have had on many occasions, and it kind of dovetails interestingly with some of the changes that are happening right now in the movie industry. Changes that have been happening in the wake of efforts to allegedly make the business more diverse. And as a lot of people are aware, Warner Brothers is presently preparing to shoot a new Superman in which Superman is black, hence Black Superman, to be scripted by Ta-Nehisi Coates. And this has become a topic of conversation for a lot of reasons. And it's one that we're going to dovetail into a conversation here too. I do want to say, first of all, Ta-Nehisi Coates has gotten a little bit of flack, I think, in some conversations saying like, well, why are you hiring an essayist and a political activist to write a comic book based movie? Ta-Nehisi Coates has a background as a comic book writer as well. So this isn't like they went and hired Al Sharpton to write this. Yes. But the question is, they could just as easily have hired Ta-Nehisi Coates to write White Superman, but they chose not to. So I'm just going to go down a little list here of things that I've made over the past little while. Since diversity kind of started off, we've had a Ghostbusters with white women and one black woman. We've had Wonder Years now with a black family. Greatest American Hero coming up with a South Asian woman. We've had an announcement of a new Heart to Heart with a gay couple. We have Magnum P.I. with a Latino, and we have Fantasy Island with a woman. And the question I want to start off with first is this diversity?
Let me dive in first here, since I'm sort of walking a little tightrope here, as both a co-host of Godcast, podcast, and other things that we do, as well as a journalist in general. So first thing I want to do is disclose that I absolutely have a dog in this fight. I got a horse in this race. I don't know, whatever, with all of them. I have something invested in all of this in more ways than one. In the first way that I have something invested in this is as an American black person who's grown up in this culture here in America, just turned 60 years old not too terribly long ago. So the culture that we're talking about is the culture that formed me. And over the course of my 60 years, not a whole lot of that culture, not as much of that culture as ought to have been, represented me. As Sherman, too, for that matter, black women, people of various different cultures across the diaspora of many, many cultures that have come here to America. So that's my first dog in this fight. My image, my representation in the media. And then I have a more specific dog in the fight that we'll talk about toward the end of this. It has to do with being allowed to create things from the ground up that are not what I would call, and actually I got this from you, Wade, what your mother used to call the hand-me-downs. Different cultures' hand-me-downs, they're leftovers for the sort of pop icons that have, again, like I said, shaped me and so many of us. I got a dog in this fight with respect to that too. I don't want those hand-me-downs. So all those things that you just mentioned, are they diversity? In a turn, I suppose you might call them diversity in a particular sort of way. But it's certainly not the sort of diversity that I want or that I'm interested in having here. Sometimes there's a distinct possibility for a character that's a part of the culture to have a different manifestation in the media. For instance, I will go to that young Puerto Rican Spider-Man in that animated series, whose name is not the same name as the name of the Spider-Man that we've all come to know and love, Peter Parker. He has a different name, he's from a different family, and he became Spider-Man in a different way. so he can be a Spider-Man. That's fantastic. I have no issue with that. If you take a young Latino boy whose name for some reason happens to be Peter Parker, I don't know why that would be, but the Spanish version of Peter Parker, and you simply give him the exact same backstory and have all of the exact same events, the spider bites him, not May, and all that stuff, he becomes Spider-Man, then that is not diversity at all. I would reject that whole complete. So could we get to a Spider-Man of a different race? Sure we could. We got to a Spider-Man of a different race. But did we have to go through Peter Parker to get there? No. And that's not diversity. So that's my long-winded way of answering your question. This thing that looks like diversity, Wade, isn't diversity. It just looks like diversity, but it's a trick.
Sure.
For me, it's simple. You know, being on the inside with this whole thing. If they were going to make anything diverse, they should have done this 10, 15 years ago. Bottom line. You know, surely there 10 to 15 years ago, there were plenty of people walking down with original ideas about Black Superman or a man of color with superpowers, a Latino man of color with superpowers, and on, and women with superpowers, and on and on and on. It took different movements. It took us to see a black man get executed on TV to actually start this whole movement. And still, there was resistance. Now, as far as Hollywood's concerned, an actor friend of mine told me years ago, the reason why they're not doing specific things or certain things is because it's not that they don't care. It's just that they're not thinking about it. Why? Go at the box office, or how many asses they can put in front of TVs at home. You know, in certain parts of America, it's taboo to have the black man or the woman save the day. So we're here now. And I can recall, I'm not going to mention any names, 20 years ago, a bunch of prominent African-American producers and casting directors got together, and they were going to make their own stars. They were going to do their own version of James Bond. See, forgot about that. They were going to do their own version of James Bond. They were going to do this, and they were going to make and build their own stars. They weren't going to let the system do this anymore. They were going to do it. And it hasn't happened. Those of us who basically find ourselves working a lot, making a lot of money, notoriety, the whole 9 yards, going from film to film, television show, is because either you got lucky or somebody worked their asses off to get you into that spot. But again, now you're a noted actor. And what they want to do now is put a label on you. If you're black, you're gonna go be Black Superman. You know, how come I can't just be a black man with superpowers? How come we can't do that? We have to label this whole blackness thing in front of everything, right? Mm. So that's one thing that really, really, really chaps my hide all the time. Labels. It's always these labels. So I just feel that, and let me digress a little bit. Let me go back. If it wasn't for the success of Black Panther, we might be having a different conversation right now. They know that there's value. They always known that there was value. But they have to protect themselves because of the simple fact, well, you know, we just can't put all this content out there and let the women do this, you know, the Latino gentleman, Latinx gentleman do this, let, you know, the black man do this. You know, they have to, in increments, open the door just a little bit. So, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna know. Look, I thoroughly enjoyed Brie Larson as Captain Marvel. The Captain Marvel that I grew up was a white dude. As a matter of fact, the Captain Marvel I grew up with was two white dudes. If you wanted to, they had to say Shazam to turn to the other guy. That's super duper complicated. Won't get into that. But I thoroughly enjoyed her in that role. But even then, I think to myself, I could see it coming. We're going to start doing this thing rather than, for one thing, there are myriad characters in both the Marvel and the DC universes. who are characters of color.
We talk about this all the time. Blue Marvel.
Blue Marvel.
Well,
Conceived as characters of color, who could simply be brought to bear to occupy any of these spaces. You don't need, and let's talk about that Black Superman real quick, because when they first said, "Oh, we're going to do Black Superman," right? That first of all, we had to figure out, what do you mean by that? Exactly. Is this going to be Kal-El from Krypton, whose mom and dad and the planet blew up and the whole shebang? Is it that guy, or is it just some dude? This is what they've said. They didn't need to do this, as you and I know, as we all know. You guys are much more steeped in this than I am. But there is, in fact, a black character from Krypton, conceived, I think, in the 80s.
Early 90s, I think. Might be early 90s.
And on the backstory, early 90s. And he is a different person than Kal-El. 4 or 5 people made it out of Krypton. One of them happened to be a brother. They decided in the 90s. So if you wanted to do a black character with the powers of Superman and even keep that character in this universe, you already had one. So why in the world would you take Kal-El and make him black? This is insulting to the creators of the series in the first place, and frankly,
real quick on that, those issues of that comic sold. It's not like they didn't sell units in those comics.
And I'm going to say, I also think, and I've heard that they're having a hard time getting an actor to consider this, because I think you're putting an actor at a disadvantage, because the actor now has an additional hurdle to clear before making you believe that they're in that character. Now that actor, everyone's walking in going, Superman's black. So now that actor has to make you forget that he is black before he makes you convinced that he is Kal-El. So you're giving that actor an extra hurdle. I just want to, now that we brought that up, so let me just go to the subject of the Snyderverse, because Ray Fisher, who played Cyborg, kind of started a lot of this when he called out the Joss Whedon cut and Joss Whedon's direction of Justice League for saying, you basically took a character that I was hired to portray. And let's remember, too, that Ray Fisher doesn't need the movie business. That's why he's sort of free on Twitter to say what he wants and speak his mind. Ray Fisher is a very successful Shakespearean stage actor. He will always have a career on the stage if Hollywood just blows him off. So he doesn't care. He can do what he wants. And he lit this fuse, and he said, I was hired by Zack Snyder to play a really fascinating, complex character with a whole kind of a Frankenstein, Jekyll and Hyde dynamic. And Joss Whedon cut me down to basically a stereotypical angry black man. And that's not what I was hired to be. And he lit that fuse, and that is what got us the Snyder cut, in which we see the full fruit of what his character was, which is the heart and soul of that movie. But at the same time, this problem continued, because we also found out, and this is a spoiler, we also found out that the Harry J. Lennox character that we had in Man of Steel, and who continued in Batman vs. Superman, is revealed as John Johns, the Martian Manhunter, in the Snyder cut. That was also cut out. And then, for the Snyder cut, Zack Snyder wanted to give us a tease at the end of where he was also going to go, and he hired Wayne T. Carr to play Green Lantern. And they blew up at that. They said, no, we don't want that Green Lantern. We're doing the Green Lantern TV show. So Wayne T. Carr gets left on the cutting room floor, and they brought back Harry J. Lennox. So at the same time that we've got DC saying, hey, look at us, we're doing Black Superman, we have a history of them disrespecting 3 legitimately black superheroes from DC Comics in just one movie. And the one final point before I turn it back to the two of you, we could have remedied that somewhat with The New Gods to be directed by Ava DuVernay, which was a really great thing. The New Gods could be directed by anybody, like Marvel's Immortals. They're non-race specific. You can sort of make them look and sound whatever way you want. You can hire any actors to play them. Just hire the best actors. Ava wasn't hired because she was a woman or because she's black. She was hired because she's a good director. It felt like a step in the right direction, and they pulled the plug on that as well. So in the wake of all of this, it feels like Black Superman, rather than a step forward, is almost like a way of trying to make us forget all these missteps of the past. Am I reading this right?
Exactly. And you're reading it right. And if we go back to the whole thing about Black Superman, now we have to think about how we're going to cast Jimmy Olsen, how we're going to cast, Perry, how we're going to cast Lois Lane. What are we going to do with these people? And how creative can we be there? Because we have Black Superman now, so we have to rethink if you fix anything here, you got to fix it there.
Yeah.
So there's a problem. It's problematic.
And here's the thing. Look, across the arc of the 90s, we've all been at this for a very long time. We saw this sort of dynamic of where the shape of some sort of characters were created to that black folks could occupy. So, and this is you can go back to Blank Man.
Appeasement.
It was an appeasement. There's a shape that we will allow black folks to, and generally speaking, some of these things were created by other black folks. The Wayans family created some stuff, but not always. It's generally speaking, there was a set of things that was allowable. And that set of things is what you can do. And what you could not do is a ground up, original concept for any of these things, and then occupy them with black and brown folks and Latino and Asian folks and all kinds. That simply was not a possible thing to do. So you had all of these characters that already existed in these universes of color that could have been made into movies or television shows at any given moment. But instead, we get faced with this sort of notion that what we will do is take these ostensibly white characters and allow them to be mutated and changed and flipped around, and then we will give those back to these communities and say, see, here you go. Here's your Superman. He's black. James Bond was one of the first ones. The whole Idris Elba James Bond thing almost made my head explode.
I was going to bring that up. It was James Bond, and so we're hearing about that, and we got to go back to Robert Townsend when he did Meteor Man. Okay, so Meteor Man, in much respect, but it had to be funny. It couldn't be just straight up dead ass serious like a Superman.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the movie. I love the movie. It was great. And then so we just talked about 007, but then Wild Wild West. We talked about that.
That was one of the earliest ones where this conversation came up.
Yeah.
That was one of the earliest ones. Love me some Will Smith, but Will Smith is the black Secret Service agent.
Yeah, we're not dogging anybody's career.
In 1865, this was a thing that didn't make any sense.
Yeah. Let me dovetail then to the issue of black creators and how much freedom they are given, as opposed to just having things handed to them. We've had a number of things that are happening right now, literally as we speak, and one of them is that we found out, speaking of Will Smith, that there was a real battle to get him cast in Independence Day. That's something that Roland Emmerich just has sort of come clean on now that we've had an anniversary for Independence Day. I think it's like, the 35-year anniversary or something like that, 25-year. Yeah, and he said, he had to really fight for it because they didn't think that he had the box office clout. And that recalls to me, I had a conversation with Fred Williamson some years ago when he told me the story that, in the 70s, he went to the Cannes Film Festival. And when he went full independent and he had all of his own movies and he was there and he rented a suite and he got set up and he was selling his movies, and all the European buyers told him the whole festival long, you're never going to get what you're asking for these movies. Black actors just don't sell in Europe. And Fred Williamson, took a puff on his cigar. He laughed at them and he said, I'm not lowering the price. You're going to come back, because he knew what his value was. And sure enough, on the last day of the festival, they all came back and they all bought his movies for their markets for exactly what he was asking for. And
that reminds me of back in the day, the whole black quarterback scenario. They weren't smart enough to be quarterbacks. Okay, they just wanted to keep it white. That's all.
Well, more recently now, we've got two battles. One is ongoing. One is more or less resolved. Ice Cube and Warner Brothers Warner Brothers again in the middle of this. They're battling over the Friday franchise. And accusations flying left and right. But Ice Cube says basically Warner Brothers will not give him the creative freedom to do what he wants with the franchise. So he wants it back. So they're negotiating over that. And then more surprisingly, Kenya Barris, creator of Blackish, had this amazing multi-million-dollar deal with Netflix, which he walked out on. He was halfway through this deal and he walked out on it and went over to BET for more creative freedom, because he said that he felt like he wasn't getting the necessary creative freedom to do what he wanted to. And so I think there's an interesting dynamic here where a lot of black creators are sort of expressing frustration with the latitude that they are given to create things, as opposed to being given the things that they're expected to simply work on. So I'd like for the two of you to comment on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, we three have a friend, a powerful friend, who's a casting director who was offered a big job at some place and was going to take that job. And the reason why she didn't take the job is because she was told that she would have control to do certain things, and she would have control with casting for a lot of big companies that were in this one company. So she didn't take the job because all of a sudden, when she got close to inking the deal, right? They said, "Oh yeah, you will have a boss above you." In other words, cutting her off at the knees, because knowing she was going to bring in and had all these great ideas for all these great projects for all these big companies, that you know, things would probably change a little bit too fast. So she didn't take the gig. So again, on that front, they will stop it at the door, knowing that things will change if we allow certain people to be at a certain place to bring that change on.
It's a gatekeeper's thing.
It's a gatekeeper thing, yeah.
And there are always gatekeepers. There are gatekeepers in media, gatekeepers in movie studios, TV studios. There are always gatekeepers. Always have been gatekeepers. But the question is, when it comes to these sorts of projects, is are the gatekeepers as willing to allow filmmakers, creators of color, showrunners, and creators of color to engage in their vision as they have been over the years for creators who are not of color? Nobody ever bugged Chris Carter when he was at the height of his powers in Hollywood about anything that he wanted to do with respect to the X-Files or Millennium, Space Above and Beyond. The gatekeepers did not dictate to Chris Carter what he was going to do. Chris Carter created and brought his creations to that network. I think it was mostly Fox, and then did whatever the heck he was going to do. Same thing with a real auteur like David Lynch. Has anyone ever told David Lynch, Twin Peaks and all that, of course, David, this is what we want you to do for us? David would smack him. Kenya Barris creates all of this, really, really wonderful, very popular, very income generating content for these shows, but Netflix still comes to him and says, "Well, Kenya, Kenya, if you could do something, Kenya, what is all of this? Why are you?" And that's why Kenya Barris left that.
And I think
because,
and I was going to say too, and I think we do need to be clear that with a lot of these companies, it's there are a lot of moving parts. Netflix is not monolithic. Netflix, of course, is doing Stranger Things. Sherman's on that, and they deserve a lot of credit for a lot of the steps that they have made with others.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, whatever corner Kenya Barris occupied over there, and Netflix is a huge company, a lot of moving parts. That's the one that wasn't working. Other parts clearly are, and I think with Warner Brothers too, there are clearly some parts of Warner Brothers that are working. And there are others that are in the DC end that are not working. We can find all these companies that they have. One side of the company can probably learn from the other side, and the pieces to make them work are there. They're inside. It's just about getting the culture all on the same page. Let me then shift to the two of you, because you two are not just here as pundits. You are here as creators as well, and particularly on the subject of Black superheroes. I'm going to let you take it from here, but you have both created a superhero which does not have the DC baggage, does not have the Marvel baggage, is not a superhero, as Sherm said earlier, is not a black superhero, but is a superhero that just happens to be black. And I think this is an amazing, amazing subject. I want you to talk about, come at it now, not just as pundits and all these other subjects, but as creators, who this character is, and how you came at it, and what inspired this character. So take it away. I'll let you.
There was a. I still have it too. There was a phone cover that I bought, and it had Obama, right? We all seen this picture with him opening up his shirt and his tie.
Shepard Fairey, yeah.
The Superman S on it. Yeah, I don't know if it was Shepard Fairey, but it was somebody. And I'm like, okay, so I brought this idea to Tim, and I said, how about we give them what they actually really feel? If it just was this guy that had this ability, who just happened to be African American, and then Tim took it to a whole nother level. So I'll let Tim go ahead.
And the gist of it really is that a person with the powers of a superhero, Superman-like powers, who happens to be black. He is a regular person in the community. It's not an urban show. Look, Black Lightning is a show that I deeply, deeply appreciate, but it's an urban show, and this is often the box that again creativity that comes from the black community gets put in. We are allowed to do things that hearken to our urbanness, or in somehow speak very specifically to our blackness. As if our being black isn't our blackness in the first place, and all that we necessarily
keep it real.
The keeping real sort of thing it really can be problematic, and that's just something that we wanted to avoid completely. So we created this character who is in fact a man with superhero powers, but he's an ordinary man. He's a professor of history. He has a daughter. He has a mother. He lives in Pasadena, and he's living his life. And in our very first episode, he exposes himself and his powers to the whole world. So we begin our story there. On day one, everybody on the planet comes to know that brother, whose name is William Noble, has superpowers. And the entire world has to wrap their mind around it. There's a brother in Pasadena that has super, can fly and everything, can do all the whole shebang. His mom lives over there. So we wanted to place this character in the real world, and give him all of the sort of trials and tribulations that one might think of, but to simply have him be a man in the world with these powers who is black, but not a black superhero. He's not Hancock. He's not Black Lightning. The word black does not play into our show in any way, shape, or form, but for the fact of the matter that the brother is black. Other than that, it's a superhero show like any other superhero show, with all of the issues that might come up in a superhero.
All right, with that, we're gonna cut away here for a second and show everybody this teaser that you had put together, and it's a teaser with some artwork, kind of a proof of concept, a reel, as some people might say. But we're gonna let people take a look at it, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk a little bit more about the hero William Noble. So here is the reel for the hero William Noble.
I was just living my life, teaching, taking care of family. But that morning at the train station, this guy fell onto the tracks. It all happened so fast. There was nothing anyone can do except me. So I did. For the first time, I used my abilities in front of everyone. All the people on the platform, security cameras, everyone. When the FBI shows up at my house later, I was ready for him. She was smart. No nonsense. I took her for a flight to convince her bosses to believe her report. She had me put on the show, arriving at FBI headquarters for my interview. I think we convinced them. I'm real, all right. I'm human. I'm a father and a son. And I am the man they will come to call.
So that is where that gives you a little bite at the apple of the hero William Noble, which, I mean, I am obviously biased, but I can't imagine anybody looking at that and not being totally excited to see that story, to see where that story goes, to see where that character goes. I can't imagine anybody of any background, any nationality, any color, not being compelled by the basic human element of that story. And that's what I think you guys did really, really well there. You found a core of something human that we can all relate to. And so talk a little bit, more about the genesis of the character and where this project has been and where it's going and where you want it to go.
Well, which is what all these stories have to be, right? They have to be human stories to begin with. And shout out to this wonderful artist, our graphic design artist there. Her name is Aaliyah L. AleahArt1.com. She's an excellent young black woman who fell in love with Sherman's character, Nathaniel Moon, from Into the Badlands. And contacted him and did some great fan art of him, and a conversation ensued.
Great art.
And she did all of that wonderful artwork for us. There's a pilot script and an entire series set of synopses for that entire first season of the hero William Noble. At the moment, we're sort of working on the sort of graphic novel and graphic designs. We're talking with Mike Richards over at Dark Horse Comics, who happens to be a very good friend of Sherman's. Dark Horse, of course, gave us the Hellboy series, and what else? Sherman would know better than me on all of that business. So, we're in conversation about and around all of that, and it's going fine. It's going fine. It's been going on for a long time, and some of the difficulty has been the notion that the only way that you can get these things done is through intellectual properties that already exist. Thus, the Black Supermans and the Black Panthers and the Black Lightnings and all of these characters, some of which are, as much as 30 or 40 years old and came into the zeitgeist for all kinds of interesting reasons. There's a reason why Luke Cage is Luke Cage. When I think it was Stan that created Luke Cage. Is it Stan? It was Stan, right?
Right.
It's Luke Cage.
It's Marvel.
And that was really, really great. And I deeply appreciate Stan's creation of Luke Cage and what it spoke to at the time. But as we move forward, as we come to the 21st century, these characters need to come out of the minds and the hearts and the experiences of black and brown folks and women who have had those experiences. I'm a college professor, so my character is a college professor. I'm a military veteran, so my character is a military veteran. Sherman is Sherman. So Sherman embodies the physicality, the intelligence, the dedication to that kind of. So these are the things that you see when you see the hero William Noble. You see the collective experiences of that brother and me, and our moms and our children and our lives in the world, which includes all kinds of people, and does not and do not pivot solely around the word black all by itself. It's a human story about a human character with all kinds of things going on in his life. That's what the hero William Noble is. And as it happens, he has superpowers.
Yeah. And to add to that, the thing of it is, it's set in the real world. We came up with the concept when Obama was in office, and then we got more and greater material when Trump was in office. And a couple of people read the pilot script, and it came back to where we let everybody know straight out there are no super monsters to fight. There are no evil Dr. Wizards, there's no Lex Luthor standing around the corner with a baseball bat. Aha! I see what you're doing there, William. Okay. There's none of that. The bad guys are regular people and people of power. And it's about control. It's about everything that we see what's going on today. And I remember a friend of ours, we're not mentioning any names, read the script and called me one morning and just, didn't go off, but he just said, you guys need this thing. You guys need this, he needs to be fighting. It's got to be like the Marvel thing. It's got to be like the DC thing, Straight came at it that way. And I'm like, oh, man, out of everybody that I was hoping that would get it, and I explained it to you, I thought you would. And I was deeply hurt because, we went over that. We went in depth on the whole thing about where this character was going, what it revolved around, and just straight came at us like, no, you should do it like that. Why do you have to do it like that?
People get caught up in the things that already exist.
It was, like you said, it's embedded in the zeitgeist of their minds. When they pick up a comic book, this is what we see: good guy, bad guy, good guy, bad guy, worse bad guy, kind of thing. So it's just The bad guy got to hook up with the good guy to kill the badder guy because the badder guy's got this, and that guy has powers that can kill everybody. So they got to team up.
I've been on record for a long time as saying that if Hollywood wants more diversity, you start with excellence. You chase the talent, and the diversity will follow because talent is already diverse. If you start chasing just diversity in check boxes, you're going to wind up with 27 Tyler Perry series and not much else. And Tyler Perry, an amazing American, a great success story, but he represents low risk to those decision makers. And if you're just chasing color, you're not gonna take chances on the artists. And if you're taking chances on artists, you're gonna get both diversity and quality. That's always been my mantra.
And this is what actual diversity is. As it happens, we conceived and are sort of trying to create this superhero character who happens to be black. But this is what real diversity is. If I sit down and conceive a character, any kind of character in any kind of a genre, any kind of a movie or television series or anything like that, and I go to the studios and I pitch that series or that movie, and they say, "Who do you want in that cast?" And I name for them an entirely white cast because it's the way I thought of it. I'm going to need all of these white actors in my series. Now, I know, and you and I both know right now, Hollywood is going to look at me and be like, yeah, but bruh, the reason why we brought you over here is so, we can get anybody to make that white show. We get anybody so that would be a problem. But if in my creative mind, I conceive a movie, a TV show, and that show happens to be populated by these people, and these people happen to, for whatever reason, in my creative mind, all be white, why can't I make my TV show? Why I gotta make a TV show with a bunch of black people in it? If I don't want to. If I haven't conceived it that way. That's the problem, and it works the exact same way in reverse. If you conceive, Wade, of a show about a black family in Malibu, you get to make your show, homie. That's your creativity. What are you going to do? I don't know. But you know what? I'm pulling the ripcord on that show. And that's actual diversity. Simply looking at the talent.
We'll figure it out.
Let the talent pull the ripcord, and let's see what comes out of the back end of that, and not pre-decide that those black people are going to make these black shows, and these white people are going to make these white shows, and these girls are going to make these girl shows, etc., etc. That's crap. That's not diversity. It looks like diversity. You can pass it for diversity, but it's not diversity. And it's a trick and it's a trap, and I don't think we should fall into it.
You know what's interesting? Last night I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. We were talking about why Badlands never won for fight choreography or fight scenes. Breaking Bad, I think, won the year season 3. We were nominated, but we didn't win. So we're just pondering this. We're trying to figure why, and then it just hit me like a ton of bricks because we used to get pissed off every year we didn't win. I mean, you got Master Didi, you got the Hong Kong fight team, cats from the Jackie Chan fight team, you got Andy Chang, you got the best people in the world working on this show. And it hit me. You know why? You guys didn't win because you had an Asian lead. That's why. You guys had an Asian lead, and they just weren't ready to give up that title and say, here, guys, congratulations, right? Maybe it might be a little different now because within the last 2 years, we've been seeing a whole bunch of stuff, and the martial arts genre has really made it's always been there, but it's really huge now. Everybody's doing it. So, but that's basically what it boils down to me. And Daniel Wu and I had this conversation, and so when we talk about diversity, you just give the best people the award because they're good at what they do, and it's always this resistance. And that's what I feel with Hollywood sometimes. It's resistance. It's just like if we do it and the floodgates are going to open up and, then we're going to have a whole basketball team of folks doing it. And, we're not going to, like folks got mad about the Celtics 15 years ago, something. 15, all the starters is just like it's off. It's four black guys, one white guy. Oh, no, they just lost their minds, right? So, look, I come from the school of best person gets the gig, the best ideas get made, and you get the best people to come on board and collaborate and make this story. And you're still going to make dough. You're going to make money. You're going to make money. But we need to start seeing and we talk about this a lot, a more level playing field is what I want to see. Regardless, and let's just take color and gender out. We could just take all these things out and just work with the fact that we got good people doing and bringing really great content and doing great work. Basically, that's it in a nutshell for me. That's it, And I just say take the whole thing of pigmentation, paint jobs out of the equation. That's it.
It's an interesting thing that Sherman has noted to me. Relatively recent, Sherman's noted that obviously he gets auditions, scripts, and all this kind of stuff. Used to be back in the day. It was all very, very specific. Black male, 55 years old. Character descriptions, right?
Well, whatever. This is every day. This is every day.
And then
this is every day.
And then it went to what did they say? No ethnicity. Right.
Any
ethnicity. But back in the day, now as writers, I always thought this was a little bit weird as a screenwriter, as a writer when I sit down to write a script. I generally speaking know what the race and gender is of the characters in my script. I don't know why. I just do. I'm like, this character is, and I just write it in that way. But that's all that went away. Now, Sherman, what does it say now? It doesn't say anything. It says now. Now it doesn't say anything. I think it's what you told me.
It doesn't say anything. So it's interesting because the other day I just got something. Doug Lyman is doing this thing for Amazon or Netflix, some big project, huge, lovely project. It's going to be action packed, whole 9 yards. So I'm looking at this, and they want you to read with the casting director live. This whole 9 yards. I'm like, okay, I'm not doing that because I'm off of work and we're doing night shoots off next week. So you might as well forget about that. You'll have a better chance finding Pac and Biggie rest of their soul. So at the end of the day, going back to Edge of Tomorrow, right?
Bill Paxton,
the Tom Cruise film,
right? Love that movie.
Bill Paxton. Man, I went in that audition and I knocked that whole thing out. It's like for weeks and weeks and weeks. Oh, they really like him. Next thing I know, Bill Paxton's got their role. So when I see this that comes to me the other day, 2 days ago, I'm like, no, because it said any ethnicity. So I know what they're going to do. They're going to default back to a very lovely, good white actor, and that's all to it. They're going to do that. So you want everybody to come exercise and do their thing and just grind it out. Which, you don't win the lottery if you don't buy a ticket to get it. But at the end of the day, let's be fair, guys. Now the whole thing is we're open to the idea. Why not just?
I don't know. It's an odd sort of thing. Look, in over 30 years, I've gone back and forth with these things a whole bunch of times. Like there was a very long time when the idea of colorblind casting, that's what we used to call it 25, 30 years ago. Remember that colorblind casting?
Yeah.
And it sounded like this great thing, but of course, that didn't really make any sense either. Again, people who are creating content are not creating content colorblind. They're creating content full of characters. And these characters are the characters that come from their hearts and minds. And they are who they actually are. I write that way. When I write an
Exactly. You said that. If they write it down, yeah.
That's what I had in mind.
Write it down, they know what they're asking for.
In the hero William Noble's daughter is a young white girl, Los Angeles police detective. There's a reason why William Noble's daughter is a young white girl. There's a whole storyline there that starts when she's a little bitty baby and how he finds her and how over the course of the next 25 years he raises her. She becomes his daughter. I had to write her that way in order to make that storyline make sense. So have I written very specifically a young white woman to play his daughter? Yes, I have. So at some point when they're casting this show, The Hero William Noble, it can't be any ethnicity. It can't. No, it has to be.
You know, guys, you got to be correct about this.
No, it's not really ethnicity. She's a young white girl.
It makes me feel that there's a quota of certain,
and I hate it.
You know,
I just hate it.
In projects, there's, you know, I go back to Badlands. You know, like I said, I talk about this all the time in interviews. One day, I came out of my trailer heading set, and I just had to stop and pause, and I got real teary-eyed. I'm like, hold on, I'll be right there. And I go behind my trailer, and I'm bawling. My eyes are swollen up like somebody just walked up and said, "What's up?" Stop me, right? So, and the reason why I'm crying is because I had to come all the way to Dublin, Ireland, to not be the only black man on the set, in front of the camera and behind the camera. I was just like, this is unbelievable. Now, I can go do the NCISs, do work here in LA, and one or two people, maybe one or two people in that episode. But I'm working on Badlands, and they're bringing these people from all over to be on this show. And I was talking to Al Goff about it one day, and I said, man, I really want to thank you for the way that you guys put together diversity on this show. It's really important. And before I can say anything else, I said, look, if we're living in a post-apocalyptic world, white folks aren't going to be the only ones that are living. It's going to be everybody. It's going to be a plethora of people. So we're not doing that. And he said, we made that clear to the studio. We made that clear to AMC. And this is the reason why we have a huge diversity of actors. And also we have diversity behind the camera also. And I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, showrunners, our great friend LaToya Morgan writing wonderful characters. That
unbelievable.
That you don't, if you don't get those characters if you don't have LaToya Morgan. LaToya Morgan happens to be a young black woman writing and running those shows those way and insinuating that knowledge. That's why you get that sort of range of things, and that's what you'll get, a range of things when you let everybody in and you let everybody do their creative thing.
She fought for the first woman to direct that series, Trisha Brock, and not only did Trisha knock it out the ballpark, but she bought her episode in, because we're shooting blocks, so there's 2 episodes at the same time, and that's a huge amount of money. And she brought both of those episodes in under budget, 4 days early. They didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, heads just exploded. And LaToya was like, told you. I told you. You need to trust the sister. I know what I'm doing. So
in other words, what I was saying, which is chase the talent. Just chase the talent, and you're gonna get diversity and quality, and you're gonna make money. Yeah. Well, I think this is a really great and poetic place to leave this. And before we cut out, Sherm, we've all seen the teasers for Stranger Things 4. It looks amazing. You've been in the belly of the beast. Is it going to blow our minds the way that we think it is and hope it is?
Dude.
Don't say nothing. If he says anything, ninjas will drop from his chandelier.
I just got a call. Wait, yeah, really, some Netflix ninja might. So I just got a call like 2 days ago, right? Hello, Sherman. My name is Greg. I'm chief security. Because I didn't know the number, so automatically I answered the phone and something said, I think they're gonna be fucking with you right now. Right? So I'm like, hello. This is Greg. I forgot his name. It was like Chief Security Officer here at Netflix and Stranger Things, and I'm just calling to remind you that you can't post anything about your travels, about where you're staying, this, that, and the third. And I'm just like, oh, okay, all right, okay, because they actually check your feed, your social media feed, because those fans they're just diehard, really good fans, and they know the ins and outs and the through and throughs of this show. But what I can say, it's vast. This show is huge now. It's. I can say it's going to be bloodier. It's going to be scarier. and there's a lot of action. There's a lot of, I can say this. There's a lot of gunfiring. There's a lot. It's amped up threefold, tenfold. It's amped so much.
They turned it up to 11.
Yeah, there's multiple things going on, and they turned it up to 11. They exactly. There's multiple things going on, and it all points to, one road points to 11. But everybody has something to do. I mean, everybody's storyline, their arc is just amazing. I mean, every character on the show, and that's hard to do. So hats off to the Duffel brothers and Sean Levy. They're doing an incredible thing. I worked with Nimrod. He's an incredible director. It's going to be. I can't wait for it.
Well,
come on. I mean, because I remember when it first aired, Wade was like, "Yo, man, you should check out Stranger Things." I'm like, I'm not checking out that show. I did the same thing about Badlands to my mom. I'm not watching that show. I watched that show. I'm like, I'm getting on this show. So when I watched it, I'm like, oh man, this show is like, it's the shit.
Great.
And a couple of days later, I got a phone call. Hey, would you be interested? I'm like, shh. Come on, man. There's a bear walking the woods, except for sometimes they go into Ralph's. But yeah, I'm down. You guys saw the bear that went to Ralph's. Yeah, it's crazy.
Well,
but so fantastic, man.
Great.
Fantastic.
Well, I want to thank you both. I want to thank you, Cogshell and Sherman Augustus, for joining us in this discussion.
Thank you, sir.
Wade Major, and thank you for sitting down and watching our inaugural Godcast. We hope to be doing these on a semi-regular basis as we come up with interesting ideas and topics to converse. So with that, thank our guests, and we hope you'll join us for the next one.